Hello, everyone. How are you feeling? Oh, you gotta get louder than that. I said, how are you feeling? That's it. My name is Blitz Bazawule, and I'm the director of The Color Purple. Thank you. As we all know, The Color Purple is a cornerstone of culture, starting, of course, with Alice Walker's brilliant Pulitzer Prize-winning book, Steven Spielberg's cinematic classic, and of course the Tony Award-winning Broadway play. We are incredibly privileged to be contributing to this amazing canon of work. I want to say again, thank you all for being here. You are the absolute first audience, hold on now, to see the actually finished version of The Color Purple. At the end, myself, my brilliant cast, my producers will be here to talk to you and talk about the process of making this film. Enjoy. Thank you all again for being here.
Producer, and of course, Oscar nominee for the 1985 Color Purple, Oprah Winfrey. Visionary director, Blitz Bazawule. Let's start bringing up this cast, y'all. First, we have Felicia Pearl and Pazzi. Also known as, you may know her as, H.E.R. Continuing this train of absolute superstars, we have Corey Hawkins. Colman. And reprising her Tony-nominated role as Sophia, Danielle. Shug Avery came to town, but we're mostly excited to see Taraji P. Henson on this stage. And last, but certainly not least, introducing for her major feature film debut, again reprising her role as Celie, Fantasia Barrino. So incredibly powerful. This ensemble gathered together around this tree, and the final moment being a moment of praise. Amen. This is a question to you, Oprah and Scott. Miss Winfrey.
Call me Oprah, please.
I will do my best. To have now brought another iteration of The Color Purple to life, why was it so important for you all to get together and do it again?
I'll let this, when I first heard that Scott was doing a Broadway musical of The Color Purple, my friend Gail called and said, you need to come and see this. And I was like, how are you going to do a musical with The Color Purple? So I'm going to let you answer that question, because this was all your brainchild.
Well, Alice's story is so powerful. The characters live in our world, they live in our ether, and we know so many Seeleys still today, and I felt like it was time for a new generation to experience it. And after, I've had the privilege of, I met Alice Walker in 1997, so I've been with this story for 25 years, and after doing it on Broadway, I thought I was done, and clearly there was a calling that was not to be done. And then we met this guy, and then we knew it was time. It was just time.
Blitz, I want to ask you about that vision. Where did that vision begin? And also, what are you feeling right now? We just watched thousands of names of people that believed in your vision.
Wow. I mean, first, it's deeply emotional to be here with so many brilliant people who put so much of their life force into this work, behind the camera, front of the camera. So first, let me start with acknowledging how blessed we are for that journey. The vision, and this is just kind of taking off of what Scott talked about, begins with Alice Walker, right? That's who we're all indebted to for this blessing that is The Color Purple. And for me, it was very clear, and also we have to shout out Marcus Gardley, our brilliant writer, because those are the words that spurned all of this. But for me, I think when the opportunity first came up, I went back and read Alice's work, and it was very clear to me that there was still an opportunity, because like most people, I also asked myself, why? Like, why do this again? It's been done many ways. But Alice's opening lines, "Dear God," right, for me was like the first hook, the first thing that made me understand anybody that can write to God must have an imagination. And I knew that if we could just access Seeley's imagination, we'll understand that most people who deal with trauma and abuse are often miscategorized as docile, waiting to be saved. That is not the case. They're working actively in their heads to try to free themselves. And as long as we have access to their headspace, we could do that. And I think that once we figured out how to keep expanding Seeley's headspace, anything she could imagine she could have, including how to love, who to love, how to love herself, I knew we would have a movie that would truly contribute to the brilliant canon that is The Color Purple.
You asked him how he was feeling, so may I just do an Oprah thing here? Can you just share with this audience what you were telling me just before we came back? So just before we were coming out here, I saw you standing in the corner, and you were like in prayer, and you shared with me that years ago, right across the street is Paradigm Agency, who were the first to believe and sign me. My brilliant team is here, Gabby and Natalia Williams, thank you.
small movie in Ghana called The Burial of Kojo. For $40,000 of my own money. And I screened it across the street for probably like 3 people in there that were I was hoping they were Golden Globe voters, and I was hoping to woo them to my side. I'm sure some of them might even be here today. But it was very, very few people in there. And when I first pulled up and I saw the line literally across the street, this was just 2019, I really, really, really got emotional, because it really reminded me of this journey of going from unseen to seen, which is Celie's ultimate story. And the blessing that this moment is, not just for me, but for all of us, and also from where I'm from, Ghana, where we're told we cannot participate and we cannot compete. So this here means everything, and I'm so grateful to God and to you all.
Miss Fantasia Barrino. That journey that Celie is going on, going from unseen to seen. You had played this role before on Broadway. You decided to come back this time around. How did you see Celie's journey differently?
Well, Scott knows when he first called me, I was like, nope. So he was like, I know you're married and you're happy, but you are Celie. And I was like, Scott, I just can't do it. But I love you so much, because he saw something in me back then that I didn't see in myself. And it wasn't until Bliss called me, and he was like, let me show you something. I was like, okay. He was like, I want to show you. And he gave Celie an imagination. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm in. Real talk, because he allowed me to see, or you guys to see, what women go through and how we sometimes have to imagine ourselves in a different place before we get there. That's when I was like, okay, you got me. Lord, carry me. And then I got on set. And I will tell you guys that I have been around real live Oscars. Everybody you see on the stage, I was telling Corey in the back, Corey, do I get on your nerves? Because I fan out. I fan out with Corey, I fan out with Colman, I fan out with Danielle, I fan out with Taraji, I fan out with H.E.R, I fan out with Halle. Like, I'm just like, I'm up here with some amazing, real life walking Oscars. And I wouldn't have been able to do this without them. And I had to step my game up. But I remember when we all went to see the preview, and I think T was on the left of me, Danielle was in the back, and Gab, I call you Gab, her was on the right, and we were all squeezing each other on certain parts. And then I was asking T, I call her T, or Shug Avery, because she really is Shug Avery, and that is Sophia. I ain't lying. Not today, no, every day. We was at the magazine shoot, she came through and said, I'm about to go out. I said, there goes Sophia. But every time we were squeezing each other, and we were all talking afterwards, and I was like, I feel like we all had a part where we all stepped into the shoes and we are all living or have been through certain parts of the characters that we played. Colman and Taraji is who I spent most of my time with, Mr. and Shug, and they always checked on me, always loved on me. And I was like, I can't play this part because I gotta dig deep. But they made sure when I dug deep that they caught me in the end. And she was always making me laugh. Just like today, she was better at cutting up. Yes, she was. I believe it. It's true. But they kept me, and I was able to go back and dig into some things that I thought I had let go of. But this time playing Celie, from when I played it on Broadway, was different. I'm grown now. And I realized that Celie was not so bad. I thought it was bad back then, but I just related to her. My life was in shambles, so it was a different weight that I carried. This time I realized she was pretty dope.
Extremely dope, and super powered. You know, as we all are, we all have it in ourselves. I wanted to ask you about that song, that beautiful end credit song, I Superpower, the lyrics of that song. Tell us a little bit more about that process and how it encapsulated those feelings you just shared.
Well, I sat on the floor in Indian style and recorded that song. And I cried the whole second verse, and I said to the dream, it's almost like you met me before. And I wanted to pick his brain because I wanted to know, why did you write it? Why did you say what you said? And he said, I followed you through your good and your bad. And I'm a Southern man. He said, I got roots in North Carolina. Y'all got roots, South Carolina, North Carolina. And he said, I followed you, and I believe that you had superpowers that you didn't see back then. And so it was hard for me to record that record. Because a lot of us don't see our superpowers when we're going through what we're going through. But I see it now, and I see it in everybody that I sit up with.
Taraji, you have a superpower that some people knew about because I already heard an HU. You know. But some people might not have known just how incredibly powerful you are as a vocalist in addition. Tell me about deciding to step into Shug Avery's shoes.
First of all, I thought Blitz had the wrong number when he called. And it was interesting because my management had already called and was like, you're being tapped for Shug. I was like, get out of here. And then Blitz called and he was like, you're my Shug Avery. I was like, to me, are you sure you have the right number? He was like, yes. Then I connected the dots because Stephen Bray, is he in here? Stephen and Stephanie Elaine. So let me give you a little backstory. So Stephanie Elaine, who I love dearly, produced Hustle and Flow. Right. And she married Stephen Bray later. And you know, he did the music on Broadway. And so back then, because now he's married to Stephanie, and Stephanie's like, you know, Taraji can sing. And he tapped me for Shug, and I was like, no, sir. I was trained in theater. I studied musical theater. You're talking 8 shows a week. I'm not blowing my vocal cords out. And but the funny thing about life is that when something is destined for you, you can't run from it. Because I tried, and Shug still found me. And so I guess this is literally a role where I could say I was destined to play this role. Clearly.
Well, we have to talk more about Shug's, especially Push the Button. Actually, why don't we just talk about it now? It is just such an iconic, of course, we've already met the character, but it's such an incredible reintroduction because we're getting to see in all the regalia. Tell me a little bit about the staging of this number, working with the iconic Fatima Robinson.
Fatima is amazing, and I was lucky enough to have worked with her before. So, I mean, I guess for me, the rehearsal was so fun because it took me back to, I felt like I was in college again. And I mean, the way it was like a well-oiled machine. Like one of us would be in wardrobe and two of us would be rehearsing our songs. And then the other three are rehearsing, choreography, and somebody else is in the fitting. And it worked like this every day, like clockwork, until we went into principal photography. And the great thing about that is, I don't know, I've done plays, and it's something about, it was almost like we were rehearsing in a dance studio, and then finally it was time to move it to the big stage, and this is actually the set. And by the time we got there, we were so comfortable because it was living in our bodies for so long in these rehearsals. So when it got time for Blitz to set that camera up in those amazing angles and those beautiful lights, we were there. We were already there because we were already running it and rehearsing, and I would be in bed like 5, 4. Going to the bathroom like, push the bathroom. Like my neighbors thinking I'm crazy. But that's what I love about the process, and that's what I love about being an artist. It's like taking a lump of coal, and then you work on it, and you chip away at it, and you pour your love and your heart and your soul into it, and then finally it's something really beautiful. And that's what we get to do for a living, and I'm grateful. And this this is legendary. This is iconic. This is something that's gonna live on forever. And when I had my talk with God, I said, God, this is the type of work I want to do. And I never said the color purple, but this is actually the type of work I've always wanted to do. So when you get a chance to make your dreams come true and you look back and start checking off all the things you asked for, gratitude is it's not a big enough word for what I feel.
Ms. Danielle Brooks. You already told me backstage, there's some Juilliard folks in here too for just shouting out.
Two of my classmates from Juilliard, art classmates from Juilliard, Ryan O'Byrne and Joe Mayer are here. So they've seen the journey. And Lee, yes, Lee's here too. So it's very exciting.
Well, tell me about the journey, because you've also gone on a journey with this character, playing Sophia when you were younger, and now stepping back into the role now. How did you see her differently?
First of all, I'm just grateful, first of all. And I have to take a breath to take in this moment. I've dreamed of this moment. 118 days, y'all. We were unsure if we would be here. And we're here. I mean, the journey has been a wild one for me. I think my journey starts with 2005 and getting to see this on Broadway. My dad took me, I was from South Carolina, 15 years old. He took me to see The Color Purple, and it changed my world because I saw people that looked like me. I saw people that looked like me. And it just gave me a path to walk through and find. And I would never forget, in 2015, I was doing Orange is the New Black, and while I was doing that, I was in my house in Brooklyn, and the announcement that they were doing the revival came out. And I remember sitting there like, oh, I can't wait to see who they use as Sophia. Because I was like, there's no way that I'm gonna get to do both. And I did. And it changed my life, you know? And I just never forget like singing Hell No every night. And using it as my shield, my weapon, because I was so afraid. I had finally stepped into this thing that I wanted so bad, and I had gotten imposter syndrome, feeling like, am I enough? And I got to sing Hell No and fight that thing every day. And so you go through the journey and, you know, you hear they're doing the movie, and you calling Scott Sanders like, hey, you want to hire me? Trying to be cool about it. And then I heard this one over here booked Harpo before I booked Sophia. And I played Sophia for a year. And so I just was like, Lord, please put the pieces together. You know what I mean? You praying for this thing, please put the pieces together. So when Miss O called me and said that I got the part 2 days after my birthday, the best gift I could have ever gotten. And then, to get to, today's my daughter's birthday. She's 4. To get to take her to her first movie, to see that one down there in The Little Mermaid. And in that trailer, to get to see her mom as Sophia. Special. It's so special and it's so full circle. And I'm just grateful for my journey. It hasn't been an easy one. None of our journeys have been easy up here, none. But God makes no mistakes. And what is for you will never miss you. So I'm so grateful to God this didn't miss me.
Oprah, as you see this young woman step into this role, but even more, as she just expressed, into herself, what does it mean to share that lineage together?
Well, The Color Purple changed my life. In 1985, I never wanted anything more in my life than to be in The Color Purple, to the point where I thought, I didn't know anything about the movies, and at the end credit, there's something called the best boy. I was gonna convince Quincy Jones that I could be a best girl. And God saw fit. I mean, when Blitz was telling me his story earlier that he shared with you all, just as he finished the story, the movie was ending and the chorus was, "Look what God has done." So it was almost like signing off on what you had just said. And for every one of us up here, it is a story of look at what God has done. And from the beginning, from the very first time I read The Color Purple, it was a blessing in my life. Because until that time, I didn't know that there was language for what had happened to me. And the first line of the book is, "Dear God, I am 14 years old. Please help me know what's happening to me." And I had been raped and had a child at 14 who later died, and I did not have any language to explain what that was. And that book was the first time that there was a story about me. And so to come full circle and then to be discovered by Quincy Jones and be in the movie and literally prayed on my knees every night for the opportunity to be in that movie, never wanted anything more. And then when it happened, it changed my life. It changed everything for me. And to now be in a position to come so full circle that I am producing with Scott Sanders and producing with Steven Spielberg, who was like, please put me in the movie. And I remember getting, at the time, my lawyer, we were getting favored nations, and I got $35,000 to do The Color Purple. And my lawyer said, I know I can get you 50. And I go, please don't. Please. I would do it for nothing. So it's a full circle moment for me, and that character became iconic for me. So I wanted to be there the day in particular that Danielle did that famous "You Told Harpo to Beat Me" scene. I wanted to be the one to call Danielle because it felt like passing the baton of glory and goodness, because this is what we will all reap from the experience of this movie, is glory and goodness, because it is divinely touched. It's bigger than all of us. It's what Scott was saying earlier. It's what Alice Walker seeded in the novel, goes beyond us. Now this story comes into the world, and generations now will experience this in ways. And it's like Fantasia has said on other occasions, you can't come to this movie and not be healed. There's something really powerful going on with the spirit of it and the energy of it. And it's the spirit and the energy and the love and literally the vibrational frequency that we all brought to it. So to see everyone here on stage in their highest vibration, speaking of this thing that we love that is really greater than ourselves, I have no words for that. Look at what God has done.
Danielle, to have that moment, to be performing that scene, knowing that Oprah is there on the other side of the camera.
I had to pray. I was like, you just want to make her proud, first of all. Like, that's the way you can honor her, is by, like, doing the work and getting yourself out of the way, all of the things that you're feeling and experiencing, removing that, and being Sophia. That's the best gift I could give you all. That's the best gift I could give myself and to the legendary Miss O. I mean, So it was a day, but what I appreciate about this woman, that she held my hand through the whole thing, and she let me fly. She said, it's yours. Do what you may. You got this. She reminded me of that. And she was just one phone call away. There was times I would call her, and I'm like, oh, Miss O, but I need her. Because, this is heavy material, and there's times where you have to shoot things over and over. But she reminded me to call on the ancestors, that they're there, that they will never leave you, even if you feel depleted. So I'm very grateful for that, and it taught me the lesson: when it's my turn, do the same.
I know you mentioned that it's your daughter's birthday, and this is a beautiful moment to celebrate, because we also have another birthday on this stage, Miss Felicia. As we sit here and celebrate this sisterhood and truly all of the generations and all of the parts of our careers that everyone is in, I pitch down to you. How does it feel to share this beautiful role, share in this lineage? You're sharing it with Fantasia, you're sharing it with so many people who see themselves in Celie. What did it mean to you to be a part of this film?
It feels honestly otherworldly. I have a personal connection as a fan and as a viewer of everyone's talent up here since I was a young girl. And this is something that I asked for when I saw that it was happening. I saw Corey was cast first, and I'd always wanted to work with Corey. He's from DC, I'm from the DMV. I was like, it's gonna happen. And was just like, I want to do this film. And just speaking about like generation and ancestors, my grandmother passed away May of 2021 in our family. She was like the Sealy. She was someone who went through a lot of trauma in her life. And when we went to go bury her, we're from the Democratic Republic of the Congo. My first time going home was to bury her. And the day we put her in the ground, I saw the notice for this audition online. Just like, and I was like, work, Grandma, thank you. Like, how quick, it worked so fast. She came and just gave me this beautiful gift that day. I said, I'm anointed. I am truly blessed. It didn't take her but 2 seconds. 2 seconds. It was work she could not do on this earth. She had to transition to do it for us. Thank you. And it's just, I mean, just looking at everyone here, it's just a reminder that like dreams come true every single day. And just hearing them talk about how this was their own individual dream is so moving to me and so inspiring to me. And I hope inspiring to everyone here. I mean, that year was the year of the pandemic, and I'd made a playlist to just like really put myself in a vision of a life that I wanted. And on that playlist was the song I Believe that Fantasia recorded when she won American Idol. And I feel like I say it to you all the time, but you were the blueprint for me growing up. Just watching you win so young and what you've gone through and where you are today. I mean, I don't take any of this lightly, and I'm just so, so grateful to be here.
Y'all are trying to make this very difficult for me today. That is the power of this movie. That is what this movie is celebrating. It is celebrating our bonds with sisters we don't even know we have, with brothers we don't even know we have. Halle, I want to go to you next because, you know, Celie and Nettie's relationship is the heart of this story. Tell me a little bit about you and Felicia and how you two bonded.
Yes, well, happy birthday to this special girl, y'all. This was, first of all, this was such a blessing to be able to be a part of such a beautiful project with so many people that have inspired me for so very long, much like you just said. I mean, I think I was just in awe just to be a part of it. And I was really excited to take on this role of young Nettie because I felt like I had a lot of history and sisterhood with my personal relationship with my sister, Chloe, who is my angel, my guardian, my everything. And I'm the baby sister. So I have 2 older sisters and a baby brother, but I'm the baby of the girls. So I felt like I could really resonate with young Nettie's story. And also, I felt like she was teaching me strength about myself that I didn't know I had within me. And it was really exciting to get to do it with Felicia, who's so amazing, and just play on that beautiful, fun relationship of sisterhood. And, you know, it's truly a blessing when you can have a guide here with you on earth to be like, you know what? You do it this way, you're okay, like hold my hand, I got you. And that's what my sister Chloe is for me. So I felt like I was able to kind of, I guess, imitate her in a way when playing with Felicia and being the one to kind of guide her out of the darkness that would try to consume us, but we wouldn't let it. So, you know, I'm just so grateful to be here as well. And yeah, this is like a dream to even be sitting up here.
Yes. I mean, that lightness is exactly what you have in a number like Keep It Moving. It's just so joyous. Halle, tell me a little bit about writing that song, but also Blitz, I would love to hear from you too about that balance that this film strikes. It has such deep gravitas, but it also, it makes sure that there's room for joy.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. Well, I was super honored to even get an opportunity to write a song for a beautiful film like this. I was grateful that I got to kind of use young Nettie's perspective to write from.
and use that sense of self that she knew so very well and encouragement to her sister and put it in the song. I think Blitz really helped me along the way by giving me that freedom to do so. And then just pulling from my own experience with my sister really is all I could take from. So that's what I tried to do.
And brilliant work.
Yeah.
I mean, as it relates to, and I'll keep this very quickly, this balance and oscillation between pain and joy. I mean, that's everybody's life. We're constantly going back and forth. And so for me, it was very important that as Celie was dealing with deep trauma and challenges in her life, and you know, this is also very peculiar about the Black experience, no matter where we find us, no matter the challenges and the abuse, there's always room for joy, right? And I made sure in every frame that even though the circumstances were not beautiful, we could find beauty. And that was important for Celie, it was important for our film to constantly be going back and forth between this, because that's real life. And I knew that that's how we'll be able to hold an audience through such challenging material. But also, I mean, the music, which again, specific to Black music. The gospel, well, the spirituals that become the gospel that becomes the blues that become jazz, was kind of how we oscillated. And again, shout out to Stephen Bray and all our brilliant writers. Our list was passed on. The great Brenda Russell. We inherited an amazing amount of music, but we also had the privilege of bringing on a new cadre of people to help us. Ricky Dillard, the amazing, Christian McBride on jazz, and of course Kev Moe on blues. So those were kind of the ways that we were able to go in and out of pain and joy.
Gabriella. Listen, this movie is about sisterhood, and that evolution that Squeak has is it's beautiful to see her step into herself and become Mary Agnes. How did you relate to her?
Oh my gosh, this was so crazy, like this experience. Like I couldn't even believe that I got the opportunity to be Squeak. And I didn't realize it until I was on set how much I was like actually Squeak, because in the beginning, you know, I was so intimidated. I'm like looking at everyone like, oh my gosh, like this is crazy. I'm with Oprah and Fantasia and Danielle, like we're with each other every day, and I'm kind of the new kid in school, you know, like because I was in and out of touring and coming on set, and I was so excited. But as I was working on just being Squeak and being on set, learning what that means and what that process is like, I was kind of like working my way up to like who the character is, who Squeak is. And so in the beginning, you know, I'm like doing some takes and I'm like, was that good? And Blitz is like, you have great instincts. And Scott is like, man, you're doing amazing. And I'm like, oh, wow. And so naturally in the film, like the first scene we shot is the first time you see me. And I'm like, I can sing too, you know? And like, so I was like actually hesitant in real life to say something like that. And, you know, even just learning the accent and everything, so you saw the natural progression, but also just her having a dream and having a vision of who she wanted to become. And I just remember being 10 years old, you know, 10-year-old Gabby playing and singing and wanting to be a singer one day, wanting to be an artist. And it really, it kind of empowered me in a different way, because I've just gone through so many transitions on my journey, and it reminded me why I do this, why I love storytelling, whether it's acting or singing, because yeah, it just unlocked something in me, and it reminded me why I'm here. It really reminded me like, oh wow, yeah, I started off here and now look what God has done. Like, it's crazy. It always comes back to that, because I'm like, oh my gosh, like I can't believe I'm in a movie. This is my debut. Like, this is insane. Like, and it's just funny because, like, you know, I get things about music, you know, oh, can you do a song for this film? And I'm like, I love that stuff, but I was waiting for like an email about a role, and finally, like, it was like, oh, Squeak, and I was like, yes, like, not just a song, like actual role. So I was just so honored, and like I said, you just see that natural progression in the movie, and I gained my confidence in real life and in the movie by the end of the movie.
Oprah just took the words out of my mouth. The men's. I didn't mean to leave y'all for last, but the reason I did is because there's something very special about the way this film addresses the relationship, the generational trauma, the things that are passed down, and that between Mr. and Harpo. This film addresses it in a very distinct way. So Colman, I would like to begin with you. In taking on this role as Mr., we know you have the Broadway chops, we know you've got the Tony nomination, we know you have all of these things, but to go there and to be all layers of him, from his brokenness to his brutality to also then sitting across from Louis Gossett Jr. And we learn a bit more about how this came to be. What was it about Mr. that made you say you wanted to do this?
Well, the first thing is, I never thought I would be in any production of The Color Purple in any way. I sing, but I don't sing like that. Yeah, I don't. I know my skills, but I remember I saw Danielle's production, and she always recalls. I went for my birthday, and they were singing, you know, I don't think this feel old at all, and I just said, I literally forgot that I was in a full theater with other people, and I just said, not at all! Wow, like that. I was so moved and shooketh by what I saw and experienced. And I remember going backstage and hugging and kissing everybody, people I didn't know, and I said, thank you for this. I didn't know why it lived so deep in me, this expression. So when I was invited to be a part of this, and Blitz and our first conversation, we talked about Black men and how they're viewed, and how we can do something to remedy that, and look at why hurt people. That was important for me. You know, any representation of a Black male in the world, I feel like I want to give our full humanity, and I want to show even characters that are seemingly written to just be violent and cruel. But I'm like, I want to know, how did they get that way? That was what we were curious about. And we started talking about that. And Corey and I started talking about, like, how did he get this way? You're not born this way. You know, what trauma are you suffering from? What generational trauma? What are you lacking? What are you missing? What do you need? And then why must you put the foot on someone else's throat to make you feel bigger? And I am a 1,000% feminist, and I wanted to make sure that I was in service to these women in this film and all that they must hold. And I know I have to carry a lot as well. But also, for me, by making sure that I understood how Mr. operates in the world and what he needs, and where his heart is broken by the systems that he's under, which is America. I think we're dealing with just trauma of being Black folks in America. And I think it's easy to write off a character like Mr. It's easy to write off anyone who's an abuser. I said, but you have to look at the character of Celie. She has forgiveness. that comes so beautifully. So for me, it really just like, I have to be in service to that part of the story as well, where it's like, where she can forgive because she can see how he's hurt and broken.
Wow.
And she can raise him up.
Yeah.
And that's beautiful. And I think that's a large message of what the possibility that's available in The Color Purple, and why it's lasted so long, why people keep running back to the book and to the film and any incarnation of this, because it really is about us and how do we deal with generational trauma, and then how do we have forgiveness for one another. Yes. I will go even further. How does it go about how do we forgive each other just being in America? Really, how do we forgive each other? Black and white, gay and straight, oppressed, oppressors. You know, to find that space of love. There's love in the middle of The Color Purple. And I know I want to find that. I want to find that with my son. We had this beautiful rehearsal, and I'm going to pass this to Corey. We had this beautiful rehearsal with Blitz, and we were going through the scene with Corey and I, and we were just like, there's something that we want to explore. And I was like, it's just not right that he just walks out and like, get away from me or whatever. But I think there's an unconscious moment. There's something he says that Marcus has written as well, that he says something like, you know, like something I didn't know that, you know, you made me proud of that juke joint. I see you did real good. And then I lay it on Corey's chest. I'll never forget that rehearsal. And there was that possibility of tenderness if they were just allowed. And it's important for me to see black men being tender in any way, shape, or form, any day. And I laid on his chest, and he held me. And then I just heard his voice said, "You all right, Pop?" And I don't know, this moved me so much. And because I think we discovered it in the moment, and we know that was it. We're like, oh, that unlocks something for us as men in this story. That there's a possibility of tenderness if we just allow and lean into it and get rid of this toxic masculinity and release some of this trauma that we're carrying. There's a possibility. And that helps serve the men in this story in a great way. So we're not just, you know, villains. That you can really examine us differently. You can examine the brother you see on the street a little differently. Why is he holding himself in such a way? It's protective energy. But if you talk to him, you listen to him, you'll find that there's intelligence and tenderness and want and desire like everyone else.
Mr. Hawkins, take us home. That's what happens when you get cast first, y'all. You get to just drop.
Oh, God is so good, y'all. Because this does feel like church to me. I was raised in a home by strong black women. And I appreciate you mentioning being cast first. But my first thought was to get out of the way and make space for these women. I remember when Scott called me about this role, about playing Harpo. I was confused when I was the first person. And I remember hanging up the phone, very gracious. I was over the moon. And my first thought, I picked the phone back up immediately and called him back. And I was just like, Danielle Brooks, please, God, please. I want to be her Harpo. I want to serve this story. It's crazy how full circle all of this is. We were in school together, rolling around, broke college students on the floors of Juilliard. It's hard enough to get into there. And then to look around in those rooms and not see people who looked like us. And so we saw each other. And then God, all of these years later, to be here right now, together, is more than enough of a gift for me. Colman spoke so beautifully on masculinity and just on the men in this story and the trauma and the generational trauma. For me, Harpo has always been an empath. He's an observer. He watches. He's taught, and he's a sponge, and he holds that trauma. He holds that grief. He, outside of Celie's sister, is the one person who truly watches the trauma and the abuse that Celie goes through all the way. But Harpo makes a decision. He makes a decision to change. He makes a decision to break those chains. And that was something that I wanted to lean into with Harpo on this journey. Because there is something about, all of these characters are flawed. We all have flaws in us. And if you say you don't, you're lying. But there's the lyric, not the lyric, there's the line that Alice Walker wrote. God is inside of you, and everything else, everyone else. And there's something about that allowed me to say, how can you look at somebody else and see somebody who you might hate and not see God?
Come on, somebody.
And for me, it just blew my mind open. I was just like, Alice Walker, she might be onto something. But it's just, for me, carrying that, knowing that this familial story is familiar, that it rises and it touches so many people across generations, and it certainly has for me. I'm grateful for this journey. I'm grateful to tell Harpo's story, to watch how it's touching each person up here, and it's just a gift that I hope people continue to share with each other. This story, these words that Alice Walker wrote, lives today in me, in you, in every one of us, and so I'm grateful for that, and I'm grateful that this is the first time that we all get to be together since filming this, and I'm just eternally thankful. So
I want to say one thing. Queen O, Scott, Blitz, everybody, this is why I said it's going to bring healing. If you haven't realized the healing, right, amongst us, that's going to come through the screens. I haven't spoken to my family in over 20 years. And they sent me a text and said they all rented out a movie theater and they're going to see the movie. That's big. So the healing and the love that the color purple is going to bring, as you can see, that has lived through us, will live through those screens. And people in this time, with everything that's going on, we need.
Thank y'all for being with us on this journey of healing this evening, being this first audience to experience this film. And before you go, we were supposed to end this on a very joyous note. We wanted to, I think there's some sort of selfie happening. Are we taking this photo? I think there's a photo that's going to be taken. We wanted the audience in the background of this photo is what
Can we take a selfie? Everybody smile.